PseudoPod is made entirely by humans in service of an ancient being wider than time and older than hope. She's nice. Says hello. This is PseudoPod, the weekly horror podcast. We do warnings up front now. Warnings, like bow ties, are cool. They let you know what follows might be too much for you. If it is, stop the episode, come back next week. It'll be different. If not, listen to the end. I'll be there waiting for you. PseudoPod, episode 1032. 5th June, 2026. This week's story, Flash on the Borderlands LXXVIII, Terraeque, urbesque, recedant. Written by L. Marie Wood, S.C. Mills, Rajiv Moté, and Rich Larson. Narrated by Alexis Goble, Ray Lundberg, Pine Gonzalez, and Kyle Akers. Hosted by Alasdair Stuart, with audio by Chelsea Davis. Welcome to PseudoPod, the weekly horror podcast. I'm Alasdair, your host, and this week's 78th Flash on the Borderlands anthology is all about travel. That opening quote, by the way, translates as "Land and cities recede," and our subquote is the immigrant rallying cry of "We didn't cross the border crossed us." These are timely stories with their teeth bared and their hackles raised, and if fiction that speaks directly and bluntly to the moment is not something you are comfortable with today, we will see you next week. If it is, we have some extraordinary stories for you. Starting with Jacob Street by L. Marie Wood, which was first published in the fall 2024 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. L. Marie Wood is a Golden Stake Award and 2-time Bookfest award-winning Ignite Award and 2-time Bram Stoker Award-nominated author. Wood is the Vice President of the Horror Writers Association, founder of the Speculative Fiction Academy, an English creative writing professor, and a horror scholar. Your narrator for this one is Alexis Goble. Alexis is a multi-class human living with her husband in Cincinnati, and when she isn't setting diamonds or soldering glass, she dabbles in a revolving menu of hobbies and art projects. To list them all would be to tempt madness. So take a left turn, away from the truth, for as long as you can.
Jacob Street by L. Marie Wood. Narrated by Alexis Goble. Again? Every damn time, Kate said, running a hand through her hair. Aren't there supposed to be satellites checking the routes all day long? There's like 30 of them in space, right? Kate shook her head because she didn't know and didn't care. All she knew was that every time they drove to Jacob Street or anywhere near it, the GPS dropped them right into the bay. It didn't matter if it was one of those old, clunky, box-type GPS systems that people used to mount on their dashboards, the touchscreen ones that came with higher-end cars, or an app on a smartphone. You'd think we'd know the way by now, Glenn said under his breath, but loud enough for Kate to catch his words on the wind. And they should have. They'd traveled the same route at least 4 times in the past 6 years from the same starting point. They did the same things when they went on that route, too. Started later than expected, both of them procrastinating without meaning to. Stopped for breakfast at some roadside dive, always saying they would try someplace new when they got in the car, but ending up at the same hazy window joint. Stopped for flowers and one of those green metal vases with a narwhal-like point to dig into the ground. And ended up looking at the little icon for their car lying at the bottom of the bay. You'd think, Kate said, and knew she didn't have to say it, but did anyway, because he didn't have to say it either, but he did. When he said it, it sounded like something she didn't like. We sounded a lot like you, and she didn't care for it at all. She also didn't care for the haughtiness of his tone, the condescension. It reeked of accusation, chastisement, blame. No, she didn't like the way it sounded at all. When she said it, she meant all of those things and more. They knew the way. Somewhere deep down inside, both of them did. They knew the way as much as they knew that the GPS would plop them at the bottom of the bay, driving along some unseen road in the deep. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was denial. They didn't want to know the way. Who would ever want to commit that to memory? She would just as soon never see that place again. She could feel its fingers reaching for the back of her neck, even from home. They knew the way, but they put the address into the GPS anyway. Called the address up from memory, too, their fingers typing it in without either of them even thinking about it. Like it was buried in their minds, part of them, indelible. But that was all right. It had to be. I don't think there are that many satellites up there, Kate said, following up her snippy comeback with something less in your face. Even for the US, that sounds like a lot. Yeah, but you'd think they'd have fixed it by now, even if there aren't as many as I said. If there was only one up there, you'd think it would have figured out there's no road there. That it's just the fucking bay, don't you think? Shrill. He got to shrill a lot faster this time, Kate thought, and shuddered. We've been coming out here for... Glenn started but hesitated, because he didn't want to say it. Didn't want to tally up the years and make it real. I know how long we've been coming here, Kate said, cutting in and saving them both the pain. It's just ridiculous, that's all, Glenn said, allowing himself to be backed off the ledge. Technology, Kate replied offhandedly, and she knew that was the right thing to say at that very moment. It was the thing that would make it a drive instead of a trek. Streets pattered out on a grid, curving around the water before looping over themselves. Stretching, reaching, leading to somewhere else. But their car wasn't on any of them. It was there, in the middle of the green space on the screen. Kate imagined it was blinking, beeping even, like submarines do in the movies. A watery grave for us, then. Is that what this means? Kate couldn't help but think. Every year it calls louder, draws closer. Fuck it, we're not going, Glenn said, but Kate didn't really hear it. She was too busy thinking about an underground city below the surface of the bay. Some sunken town where people used to live, walk the streets, talk to neighbors. Some place where people could sit outside the restaurants and watch the world above the surface of the water, shimmering and colorful in the light of day and ablaze with lights dotting the water at night, like stars in the sky. They were laughing down there, holding up a drink and toast as she and her brother danced along the edge, nearer, ever closer as time moved on. The old man waved from the side of the road, his half-gloves grimed with something sticky. The plaid shirt, pulled tight against the heap of rags he wore, was tattered and dirty, just like it was the year before, and the year before that. His nose blinking red. On. Off. On. Off. Maybe it's a sign that we shouldn't go there anymore, that it's not real anymore, that none of it is. Glenn was talking, and Kate heard him. He was talking about what was real and what wasn't, what they should do and what they shouldn't. And all the while she could feel it, knew it was happening, could feel it dislodging things inside her, making loose what was once stuck firmly, and she wondered how long it would take before he felt it too, before his tongue flew up from the bottom of his mouth to impale itself on his teeth, before the brackish water pooled in his throat. Yeah, Kate asked, only her voice didn't sound like her. Not anymore. Not ever again. Because that person wasn't there anymore. That person's feet didn't touch the ground, because the ground had been gone for centuries. She laughed, and wondered who was making so much noise. Glenn turned to her, his face aglow from the beacon lighting up the deep, red blinking that showed the passage of time and beat with his heart. X marks the spot, the din that only color can bring. She laughed, and he screamed, and then laughed and then cried. She told him it was enough, that he could shut up, could shut his fucking mouth finally, and look at the light, look at the beacon, hear its insistent beep. And when he turned his face to it and became one with the street where he lived, the street that had been his home for many days and many nights, centuries, thousands of years, when they used marble to pave the road and gold to gilt the street signs, when his face was home and his teeth pushed up into his head, she noticed something. For the first time since they were kids and he had fallen out of a tree, his leg twisted and bent beneath him so that his back was curved like a snake, and his head had landed next to hers, so close to hers that he almost broke her more, almost made her face kiss the dirt beneath the stone that had split her head open, dust to dust. For the first time since the blood dropped like tears to make wine, the red light blinked at the back of his throat again, just as it had then, lazily but sure. On. Off. On. Off. You are here.
The line that rings me like a bell here is they didn't want to know the way. I think a lot about the idea of conscious ignorance. It's a very powerful coping mechanism, the ability to survive by refusing to admit you have to survive. It's like portioning a part of yourself off and leaving that to acknowledge the trauma, while the rest smiles and chats and does all those normal person things we're all expected to do. Travelling here not as a means of escape, but to a normal we are told doesn't belong to us, but somehow we are still expected to participate in, even under sufferance. Especially under suffering. Woods does a fantastic job of layering that horror in here. The literal and metaphorical microaggression of the sat-nav directing them into the ocean. The resonant poetics of the final image. Of the flashing light. Tracking. Marking differences. Marking targets. Marking prey. We put the bay behind us because we, at least, can, and drive on into the world of Everyone Drinks at Sunrise by S.C. Mills. This story was previously published as Depredadora in the anthology Dark Descent Whispers from Beyond from Dark Home Publishing. S.C. Mills writes speculative fiction from Seattle, where they like to hike in the dry season and train martial arts while it rains. Raised in the Carolinas in the Southern Baptist Church, they are the apostate eldest daughter of a Panamanian American mother and a white American father. Their stories are published or forthcoming in Cast of Wonders, Heartlines Spec, Flame Tree Press, Small Wonders, and elsewhere. They are a viable Paradise graduate and NYC Midnight winner. Find them at scmillsbooks.com, and as a reminder, all the social media links that we were sent for each of the creatives for this week are in the show notes. So if you especially liked a story or a narration or anything, please get in contact with folks and find out what else they've been doing. Your narrator this time is Ray Lundberg. Ray is a writer and voice actor from Kentucky, and in addition to co-writing and acting for The Night Post, is also the showrunner and sound designer. Their writing and sound design work can be heard in 9 to Midnight and Kill FM, and they have lent their voice to dozens of audio drama podcasts. Ray lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with their wife, 3 cats, and overflowing shelves of queer books. So charge your glasses. One for the road. Ain't that the truth?
Everyone Drinks at Sunrise by S.C. Mills. Narrated by Ray Lundberg. Alicia sits cross-legged on the yurt's hardwood floor, her feet numb from a night-long vigil in this circle of aging hippies. Next to her, the shaman taps away at a handpan, accompanied by waffling flutes and fuzzy, choked drums through a cheap speaker. Daisy-chained golden amankai flowers crown his head. A stained mason jar, filled with dark liquid, sits before him, emitting a sickly, rotten molasses smell. Depredadora, Peru's newest chemical spiritual guide, finally available to those lucky few foreigners like Alicia, who can afford retreat centers such as this one. The shaman will abstain, but everyone else drinks at sunrise. Any minute now, surely. Alicia can just spy the outlines of cinchona trees through the yurt's lattice walls, their black fingers clawing a graying sky. She checks the time on her phone yet again. 5:44 a.m. Soon. The shaman glares at her. He clears his throat. She clicks off the too-bright screen and rolls her eyes. Depredadora is supposed to grant visions of ancient gods, make you one with nature. Whatever. She's down for any kind of spiritual journey, as long as it gets her high. Preferably in a way she's never tried before. The handpan mercifully halts, leaving only the tinny wail of the background music. A headache pounds behind Alicia's eyes, began by the repetitive hippie music, then worsened by the neighboring man's overpowering, yet ineffective, patchouli deodorant. He fishes out a handful of mint leaves from an NPR-branded tote bag, A chaser, he whispers to her. The shaman paces the circle, offering the chunky purplish potion to each bedraggled new ager. At last, his dirt-caked feet, edges yellowed with calluses, halt before Alicia. She throws the plant medicine back, eager to ascend, or descend, to any plane it commands. It tastes like the sweet slime on expired kale, decaying in the crisper. Her stomach curdles, but doesn't rebel. She's had worse. She's tried everything. She scans over her body, feeling nothing at first. This better not be some bullshit homeopathy. She's been fooled by traditional medicine before. Just last weekend, agonized screams cut above the lo-fi flutes, jolting her out of her reflections. Across the room, a man's skin cracks and peels off in curling pale strips, papery birch bark exposing bone and moving sinew. A wailing woman grips his shredded arm, her fingers elongating into grasping tendrils and choking vines. Panic twines around Alicia's chest and squeezes. No hallucination has ever been so vivid. She can't just be seeing things. But she must be. She must. Depredadora and her meal. The shaman cackles, his eyes empty, like knots in a hollowed-out Andean oak. Which is which now? The plants are screaming! Half-chewed mint leaves tumble from Patchouli Man's mouth. We're hurting them! He digs his fingers into and around his ears. Sap-like blood, sticky and translucent, oozes from his jagged nails. Alicia recoils, gagging, trying to retch up the poison. Too late. Searing pain shoots along her spine and scours down her arms, lifting welts that harden to hooked thorns. She writhes on the floorboards, thrashing, ripping off strips of her own skin. High-pitched screams, no, chittering, rises above the music. From her own mouth, from others, from the forest, even from the mint. Inhuman, yet familiar. Like it's always been there. Everywhere, whispering below hearing. No respect, the shaman scoffs. His rough fingers grip Alicia's jaw, forcing her to look east. The sun lifts above the horizon, a burnt orange ember, the end of a cigarette. She stares, captivated. Her retinas smolder. Her skin hungers. Alicia crawls toward the sun, away from the shaman's satisfied laughter. She tumbles over the edge of the yurt to the forest floor. Blessed wet dirt, her home, soothes her flesh and silences her mind. Her chittering fades. Blisters swell and pop with final ecstatic release as her roots sprout and burrow into the earth.
The NPR tote bag made me laugh so hard. Liberal guilt, it turns out, is delicious, especially here, where Mills mixes liberal guilt and liberal racism and asks us to throw them back without so much as a mixer. But the most powerful element in that cocktail, in this cocktail for me at any rate, is not that. It is the complex blood-on-your-tongue tang of watching people suffer the consequences of their actions, who are rather closer to your worldview than you would normally expect them to be. People who travel the world, people who want to broaden their horizons, people interested in the geography of human cognition, but in this instance not to understand themselves better, but to get some really sick photos for the gram. Performative participation as fortification against the emptiness inside and the idea of being open-minded on the out. Fortifications like that are always built on quicksand. That brings us to Other Tongue. This is a PseudoPod original brought to us by Rajiv Moté. Rajiv is a software professional and writer living in Chicago with his wife, daughter, and a tiny dog. His stories can be found in Cast of Wonders, Escape Pod, Diabolical Plots, and other publications. Your narrator for this is the excellent Pine Gonzalez. Pine is a queer Chinese-American Puerto Rican writer and voice actor from the Chicagoland area. Their writing ranges from romance to fantasy with a focus on telling queer stories. They currently have 2 completed audio dramas, Tales from the Fringes of Reality and Forged Bonds, and it is my singular honour to have been a part of both of those remarkable shows. Pine can be heard in shows like Woebegone, The Grotto, and Fresh Meat. You can learn more about their work by visiting their website, which, as I said, like everyone's social links, is in the show notes. So, how about we learn a new dialect of the truth, folks? Listen hard.
Other Tongue by Rajiv Moté. Narrated by Pine Gonzalez. We gazed fearfully into the crater in the Las Americas parking lot, near the San Isidro port of entry. Well, I wasn't there, but like thousands of others, I watched the videos online. Plumes of hissing smoke curled like grabby fingers. A voice whispered inside the hiss. Goosebumps, even on a phone screen. A speech therapist analyzed the footage and found plosives, continuants, fricatives, trills, taps, phonemes. The building blocks of speech, but with no speaker. Nobody could identify the language. I can tell you it was rhythmically seductive. Shaping the mouth to utter those exotic syllables brought the pleasure of a bite of forbidden fruit. Aggressive growls squeezing through a constricted throat, breathy whispers fluttering among lips and tongue, the clicking of teeth. It felt dirty. Of course, youths and free thinkers gobbled it up. A punk band used it in a song called Aphasia, an underground hit, I'm told. More serious minds were less cavalier. Investigators found nothing in that crater. Worse, the disembodied whispers, lurking in white noise, spread. Rantings in traffic's roar, chantings in the air conditioning. I heard mutterings in my shower. The Diocese of San Diego opened an investigation into the voice's angelic or diabolical origins, but the news show pundits pointed to the nearby border and did the math. It was a foreign language, and without authorized entry, an illegal one. Mad Dog in the Morning understood denotation and connotation, calling it an alien language. Not our mother tongue, but the other tongue. Youths and globalists aside, Other Tongue made us feel helpless, displaced, even nihilistic. We couldn't follow it or reply. It disregarded us. There was an unknowable, ubiquitous discourse we could never join. We felt old, irrelevant, and foreign in our own country. America had weathered invasions, militants and migrants, drugs and disease, cybercrime and superstorms, and other economic, cultural, and political intrusions aimed at terrifying, fragmenting, and diminishing us. We'd passed laws to protect ourselves, upheld by sympathetic courts. Now that Other Tongue's psychological harm was clinically documented, the border closed, sometimes with a literal clang of steel. We debated the right balance of openness and national identity, as we often did. Was America a mosaic, melting pot, or stasis? We needed a pause to understand what was going on. The president addressed the nation. We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody who even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks them. Congress approved funds. Eminent domain was exercised. Barbed wire outlined compounds in the desert. Meanwhile, written Other Tongue materialized. We saw it in unreadable graffiti and underpasses. We drove by billboards with shapes whose angles and planes seemed to endlessly unfold as we passed. I saw indecipherable ads in the local arts and entertainment rag, scattered among the missed connections. It was obviously writing. Varied, repeating sequences, deliberately arranged. Amateur and professional codebreakers used everything from letter substitution to statistical frequency models, to no avail. We couldn't know if the written Other Tongue even represented the spoken one. Alien writing was more alarming than alien speech, however strange and sourceless. Writing is an intent to communicate. What? To someone, not us, in the future. When? It was a mockery, a threat, or an indecipherable plan, brazenly hiding in plain sight. A Szechuan restaurant everyone loved for its authentic cuisine suddenly featured other tongue on its menu, under the Chinese and English descriptions of each item. We wondered, if other tongue infected the physical menu, couldn't it infect the food? The restaurant was forced to close. The linguistic department at Princeton University wanted a copy of the menu, claiming it could be a Rosetta Stone for cracking other tongue, assuming the writing referred to the dishes. But government agents were ahead of them, incinerating every last menu, along with the restaurant itself. Infected books joined the fires. Internet representations were dynamically firewalled. Of course we debated. The optics were terrible. But experts understood that this was an invasion, even if the mechanism remained mysterious. Cable News explained it. Language is a vector for ideas. We'd already debunked the marketplace of ideas, where good ones rise and bad ones fail. Persuasiveness determines victory, and persuasion takes many forms. Nobody knew the persuasive powers of other tongue, nor what ideas it was trying to implant. We knew that other tongue was viral, if not why some were susceptible and others resistant. In addition to appearing from nowhere, now people, especially youths and intellectual elites, spread it in slang and poetry, scrawled it on skateboards and syllabi, tattooed it into their flesh. Abstract art? Occult communication? Symptoms of disease? Experts say language shapes perception. With documented effects on mental health and openness rhetoric turning distinctly anti-American, how much was caused by other tongue? What ways could it be shaping America without us noticing? One thing was obvious. A viral, comprehensible language could be even more persuasively virulent than an incomprehensible one. Some things, once known, can't be unknown. Translation was outlawed. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution, but Princeton University versus the United States ruled that freedom of language is not. The high courts confirmed what pundits said all along. Other tongue was illegal. Barracks and re-education facilities were erected in fenced compounds across America. Neurolinguistic deprogrammers were recruited and trained. We debated. Free societies debate. May the best ideas win. America divided between they who embraced other tongue, rolling it in their mouth like their favorite sins, and we who resisted. But like the public service announcement said, the price of freedom is vigilance. If we saw signs of infection in language, fashion, cuisine, art, or ideas, we needed to speak up. It was only a matter of time. Inevitably, the others themselves began to appear. Shadowy figures, glimpsed only in the corner of the eye. We wanted to dismiss them as pareidolia, but by now we knew better. The more we forced ourselves to look, the more clearly we saw them. Dusky strangers, unknown to the communities they haunted, lurked on street corners and down the darkened alleyways and viaducts where normal people didn't go, whispered incomprehensible words we'd once hoped was just the susurrus of the blood pounding in our ears. They gathered, proliferated, and began to gain substance. Permanence. They didn't vanish when you blinked. Sometimes they turned to meet your stare, wide eyes and dark faces that shaped themselves in the semblance of humanity. Their lips pulled back to bare teeth, gleaming white in the gloom. Science explained that to gain substance, the others needed sustenance. Protein. Meat. Where were they finding their meals? What were they eating? We all had our theories. You start to wonder where all the honking geese went. You start to notice the posters for missing pets. You start to count the news stories of missing children, or the elderly who had wandered off and vanished. We all had questions. Correlation does not imply causation, but do those $10 words even mean anything? Can you trust the people who use them? We wrung our hands, we argued about what to do, and the others fed and became more and more like humans. They walked among us, passed as us, and many of us didn't look twice. It's insidious, the things you get used to. How quickly the unnatural becomes every day. Thankfully, we live in a republic, not a democracy. We choose representatives whose job is to step in when we become complacent. We live in a society of laws, and if they need the occasional dusting off, we choose people to do that. People who recognize an invasion, who understand when we are at war. The footage was disturbing. The others, looking all too much like human men, women, and children, restrained for their own safety, and ours, screaming in incomprehensible tongues as they were taken away. Disturbing, but still a relief. After so many failures to preserve America for Americans, we'd finally acted. Debate continues forever. It's the price of freedom. Some say if an enemy intended to divide us to be conquered, they couldn't have done a better job. I recognize the tricks that reframe victory as defeat. I reject them. Our very minds, like our borders, are under attack. The only thing to do is close them.
Rajiv says, Other Tongue began as a pastiche of H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space, provoked by real political rhetoric about languages from across the American borders. As it developed, it found its own voice and purpose, growing into its own version of the weird. I wrote this story in March 2024, and sadly it has seemed to only get more timely and relevant as the years have progressed. This is an incredible story. The way the perception of Other Tongue flips turns the ground into quicksand once again under us in the same way as Mills does. Horror, as Friedkin said, is seeing something approach. Horror, as we like to say here, is a lot more than that, and here Moté whispers that something terrible might be in the room, and whispers closer that the something terrible might be us. Incredible, mercury-fast storytelling. Grant Mazzy and Sidney Breyer would love this one. Our final stop this week is, of course, Carcosa. 6 Best Things to Do in Dim and or Lost. Carcosa is a PseudoPod original, and it comes to us from Rich Larson. Rich was born in Niger, has lived in Spain, the Czech Republic, and is currently based in Canada. He is the author of the novels Annex and Ymir, as well as collections Tomorrow Factory and The Sky Didn't Load Today and Other Glitches. His fiction has been translated into over a dozen languages, among them Polish, French, Romanian, and Japanese, and adapted into an Emmy Award-winning episode of Love, Death, and Robots. Our narrator, or perhaps this time guide, is Kyle Akers. Kyle is a versatile talent from Kansas City, Missouri, who has worn many hats throughout his journey. That journey has seen him take on various roles, from touring the nation as a musician with the electro-pop band Antennas Up, gaining recognition through television placements, to becoming a respected voice actor featured on the No Sleep podcast, PseudoPod, audiobooks, and more. Recently, Kyle embraced a new role as a full-time ICU nurse. On top of that, he serves as a host volunteer coordinator for Games Done Quick, where he actively contributes to their charitable mission. Kyle's life story is a fascinating blend of music, storytelling, healthcare, and philanthropy, all wrapped up in one unique individual. So, one last stop. Exit through the gift shop, and do not make eye contact with the cashier. Truthfully.
Six Best Things to Do in Dim and or Lost. Carcosa by Rich Larson. Narrated by Kyle Akers. Number 1. Hit the beach! The desolate shores of Lake Hallie smell of rot and memory. Its black waters are webbed with hagfish slime, but you won't find softer sand anywhere. The secret? Powdered children's bones, accreted slowly over the deathly eons. Number 2. Explore the Old Town. A tightening spiral of stone ruins where human senses fail and space-time cannibalizes itself. Carcosa's charming Old Town is not, was not, and will not be to be missed. Make sure to take a selfie with the arriving penitent. Number 3. Try to spot the king in yellow. Let's be real. You'd never even heard of Carcosa until you got your hands on last summer's hottest read. If you go gaga for royal weddings or the crown, you'll adore the desecrated palace, where a certain tatter-robed celebrity can occasionally be seen gliding across the bile-splattered floors. Number 4. Day Trip to Alar. Carcosa's less flashy sister city, Alar, is still worth a day trip, even though nobody knows where it is. Follow the foul indices of the unmoored moon, maybe? Number 5. Watch the sun set. If Double Rainbow Guy were still around, he would flip for this view. 2 suns sinking beneath the gloaming waves? Yes, please. There's no better way to finish off a day in Carcosa than by kicking back and watching the all-natural light abandon this place, replaced by the sickly glow of abominable, ether-birthed constellations. Number 6. Succumb to the emptiness at the core of all things. Technically, you can do this anywhere, but in Carcosa it just hits different. Trust us.
Because sometimes, as Steve Buscemi once said, you need to embrace the horror, or perhaps the horror will embrace you. I love the seaside jollity of this one, as well as the nagging sense that perhaps Carcosa is, well, I mean, it is awful, but if you're heading there, perhaps, just perhaps, where you came from is worse. Any port in a storm, right? Sometimes, even this one. Brilliant work. Thanks to all. On to the subject of subscribing and support. PseudoPod has long survived on donations alone, and even though there's ads now, subscribing through our Patreon remains the best way to ensure we can keep bringing you one story told well. And if you subscribe at the $7 tier, the ads go away again. How good is that? So, if you would like to support what we and the rest of Escape Artists do, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/EA Podcasts through your browser, always through your browser, because we do not give App Store fees to the enemy. Prefer another method? There are details for supporting us via Twitch, Amazon Prime, Ko-fi and PayPal on escapeartists.net. Or you can reach out directly by email at donations@escapeartists.net with any questions, and someone will get back to you. If you can't afford to support us financially, first off, it's really important that you know that we get it. Times are very hard right now. They've been very hard for a long time, and they're getting harder. So if you can't support us financially, we completely understand. And we would ask instead, or perhaps suggest, that you support us in a different way. Please consider leaving reviews of our episodes or generally talking about them on whichever social media platform you're doom scrolling this week. Right now, for me, it's Blue Sky, and you can find us there at pseudopod.org. If you like merch, you can also support us by buying hoodies, t-shirts and other bits and pieces from the Escape Artists Void merch store. The link is in various places, including our pinned post over on Blue Sky. PseudoPod is part of the Escape Artists Foundation, a 501c3 non-profit, and this episode is distributed under the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Download and listen to the episode on any device you like, but don't change it and don't sell it. Theme music is by permission of Anders Manga. Join us next week for more true stories, and in the meantime, PseudoPod wants you to remember, it's a hard line when you're an import.
When you listen to a narrator or let yourself go into a story, you are letting yourself go into the car of a stranger. You are getting into the car of a stranger. You are walking in the front door of someone you do not know.
It's a pseudopod. It's a big foot.
It's all about podcasts these days.